So let's just roll. Does anyone want to, well, let's just start as we do with a moment to reflect on the work ahead of us and our commitment to Washington County by taking a moment of silence. Thank you for that. And now, if you would, I'll entertain motions to conduct this meeting electronically, given that it's essential business.
I'll make the motion.
And I'll second it.
Right, I have Brenda making the motion and Susan seconding. And so if I could just do a roll call vote, and this will, I'll use this for attendance as well. Susan?
Yes.
Brenda?
Yes.
Sherry?
Hey, Sherry, you'll need to unmute.
I know it wasn't working right. Yes.
I don't know what that means.
Awesome. Jim Wheeler just joined us. Was that a yes, Sherry?
Yes.
And Jim, we're just taking votes to conduct the meeting electronically, that it's essential business. Okay, thank you. And I will vote yes as well. That makes 5 yes, 0 no, 0 abstain. I'm just going to walk through attendance really quick. We have everyone except Michelle and great. I'm so glad we can continue to meet in this format. It's really great for this meeting, and we have a reasonably short agenda for today. Our first item will be to discuss the clean copy of the social media policy and kind of any concerns, anything anybody wants to raise, and then determine a course of action for that, that policy. And then we have some updates by Susan, correct, Susan, on the website and CARES Act and a few things. So let's just start with the social media policy. As you recall, we've been through a few rounds with this. At our last meeting, we looked at a marked up copy that Ms. Wilkinson spent quite a bit of time with, deliberated quite a bit on the process by which materials would be, who would have the ability to input into the social media platforms. It looks like Michelle's joining, so just give us a minute. Hi, Michelle, welcome. And I'm sorry to hear that you had a loss, and I appreciate that you were able to take a minute to join us in spite of all of that, so thank you. We are just kicking off a discussion of first of 2 action items for today, which is the social media policy. And I was reminding everyone that we had spent quite a bit of time on this and looked at a marked up version by Ms. Wilkinson last time. A few key issues had to do with kind of which stakeholders could request content, kind of who had control of the content, sort of the gist of the issue. And then also another big one is whether or not the social media platforms would be permitted to allow for public posting or comments, which we all agreed not to do in our last meeting. At this point, we have a clean copy that was circulated with meeting announcement today. It has not been re-reviewed by Ms. Wilkinson, but as I said earlier, she had done a thorough review at the outset of our work. What I would like to suggest, I would love to open up the floor for y'all's comments, is could we, with what we've done at least to this point, take it on to the CIA committee of the County Commission for their November meeting, for them to vet and process, and if they feel that it would be helpful, Ms. Wilkinson could weigh in again, or if she wants to weigh in before CIA looks at it, I'll look to hear what you all think. But I think we could move it on to a sort of vetted commission process at this point and have that work its way to the full commission in November. I was under the impression too from our last meeting that the mayor was going to discuss this issue and policy with office holders in one of his office holder meetings, but I hadn't heard any updates on that. So those are some issues to discuss, and I leave it to you all with to hear your input.
I don't think it has went to other office holders. I was going to call Teresa Bowman, but just learned today, God love her heart, I had no idea that she had triple bypass. And I saw Rick's story briefly when I was over there, Susan, but I didn't even think to ask him. So I don't know. We haven't had a meeting with the mayor, but I wasn't sure if it went out to the other office holders. I didn't think it had.
It has not gone out to the other office holders. I can answer that pretty quick.
Okay.
We've had other things that have popped to the front instead, but yeah, Teresa had quadruple bypass surgery. She's doing great.
Oh.
She's at home.
Wow.
Wow.
I had no idea. I went out and got her a card today. That poor lady's been through a lot.
She has.
I'm making a note.
Well,
She has.
I would suggest that, we sending this to commission before it goes to the office holders might be problematic. We have to have their buy-in for this to work. And I think it's out of respect to them, before we start having public discussions with the commission about it, I think it should go to the office holders. I would point out that this is one of the 3 top priorities of the commission. And I don't think other things need to necessarily come in front of this. This is we have got to start moving some of this communication stuff forward. Or we're just gonna, we're gonna end our term without having really gotten, some things done. We need to move on to other things in this committee. I know you know that, Madam Chairman, you and I have discussed that, but it this needs to go to the office holders so we can get it onto the commission. But I think we've got to take that step first.
Yeah.
I agree.
Needs to
Commissioner.
move
I
forward.
agree.
Susan, I heard Brenda agree, but I didn't hear, Susan, what you were saying.
It does need to go in front of the office holders before we take it to the committee. Absolutely.
It seems to me like in our last discussion, we discussed the merits of sending it by email versus having the mayor sort of bring it to folks' attention in a way that might be very accessible and understandable. And I prefer, we all liked the latter idea better. I prefer that as well, just to know that they heard it rather than that it end up in their inbox somewhere.
Right.
But when would there be an opportunity to do that? And I know as now a chair of a committee that we're running short on time to get it on agendas for next week's committee meetings. Anybody know when that can happen?
I mean, I'd have to check with Joe's schedule and see when that could happen. I know with Teresa being out, it would be, probably could discuss it with her via phone. I don't know if she has access to email at home. But yeah, we would have to take it around.
So it could be another month until we are able to bring it to committee and then ultimately to the full commission.
Thank you, Michael.
I'll leave that to you, Susan, to kind of move on with the mayor, but I will say, like, conceivably, you could ask Commissioner Carragher to go ahead and put it on the agenda for next Thursday. That's still another 10 days or something from now. If you feel like you can get it around to enough folks between now and then, just on the outside chance. And if not, then we wait another month.
Jody, the mayor has joined us here. I don't know if you can see him on video.
That is the mayor. Wow. Welcome, Mayor Grandy. We were talking about you just now.
Oh,
We have done quite a bit of work over the last several months on a social media policy and circulated a clean copy. And it was our wish that this might be vetted with elected officials through the channels you normally use to vet ideas with them before we take it to the commission. And we were all sort of hoping that was going to happen in October, but we've learned that other priorities have taken a front seat, and we wondered about what you think could happen with that policy at this point, time-wise, at this juncture.
Yeah, we're actually in the process of planning the next elected officials meeting. So probably next week sometime. If you would like that distributed for their review and input, be happy to do that then, and we can, talk about it and what I guess what the intent would be, and if they're able to modify. I mean, those will be the questions, because they, as in the policy manual in general for the county, there's a base model, and then there's typically some modifications by department. So they have the possibility to do that. And is that, I guess, what I would be interested in knowing is what information you want back, what modifications that they may feel like they need to make for their own department. Is that what we're looking for?
Yeah, and we don't need to know, we don't necessarily need to get into the weeds about the specific modifications they want at this time, but more how the policy needs to be created so they have the flexibility to do what they think they need to do with, the risk profile that we're all going for here. Now, I guess what we were hoping was that we could have this presented to them and get some feedback from them, and then take it to CIA on Thursday. That sounds like it might be a pretty too short of a timeline for you, or what do you think?
If we're going to talk about it at their meeting, yep, because that would probably be right around the same time. I guess we could send it out, but I don't think you would get the response that you would desire there.
Yeah, we wanted it presented in the meeting. We think Susan could kind of go through it, and I might even provide a short memo on behalf of the committee here, just giving a couple of highlights and explaining why it's important to prioritize and think about. But if you're not meeting with all those folks on Monday, then I think Thursday's probably too fast. So just know we're now shooting for December. And we'd really like to see that go through in November, which is not a full month when you add the holidays in. As lame as the holidays are probably going to be this year.
Holidays are never lame.
No.
Caught me on a bad day.
Hey,
So-
Madam Chair,
Get over it.
Gobble, gobble.
Madam Chairman, for the benefit of the mayor, and also I'm not sure that Brenda Downs, who's the elected official on this call, and I'm hopeful that when we made some of these additions the last round, this goes to the mayor's point, that I'm hopeful that the elected officials won't actually have any additional changes. This will not be something that each department needs to adopt, Mr. Mayor. This is something that, as to the content, and this is a legal issue because of the way county government is structured, that you, of course, have the authority to speak for the county. And there's already in place that in the policy in general that we have for the county. This policy is more specific with respect to each elected official having the right and responsibility to determine the content of its respective social media. So that was something, I'm not sure that Brenda Downs was on the call for that one, but I think that if, hopefully the elected officials can just be pointed to that direction, and it'll be a pretty easy lift for them, that they'll know they have that autonomy and that there's a process in place for them to work with the communications director. That's all been set out, I hope, in some detail that will give them ease, that they'll basically just be saying up or down. They won't have to work with their employees. For example, Brenda Downs would be the sole circuit clerk representative as an elected official to determine content unless she delegates that.
Okay, does this policy direct individual employees as to what their behavior should be on social media, or is this
No,
policy directed out? No
The
words.
this policy is
Oops.
only for the implementation of a county social media platform. So it's like the county's Facebook page or Instagram page. It doesn't have, it does not include all employees' behaviors on all of social media, which is a kind of a different and much more complicated issue.
Do any
And that's-
departments already have a policy in place?
That's addressed in our handbook that was updated 2 years ago. We have an acceptable use policy. Some
Great.
offices did elect to opt out of that, but it is in the handbook.
And I'd point out this one is called social media platforms policy. I
Mhm.
think we've been referring to it as social media policy, but it's really, and that's probably important.
you.
It's distinctive from anything
Yeah.
they have
Yeah.
for social media.
Does any department already have one?
No.
The sheriff's department doesn't have one.
Sure.
No, they do.
Highway
They-
department, no department communicates out directly on.
No, the sheriff's department has wanted one for a long time, Mayor, but to my knowledge, granted it's been 2 years, they have not drafted one yet.
Do
There is
they communicate by social media to the public directly?
No,
No?
not that I've seen. I've never seen them. They do their own communication to the media, but no social media.
Okay. All right.
There is a Facebook page that purports to be the Washington County Sheriff's Office. And Chief Lightnin has indicated that that is not a legitimate page. And this policy, this social media platforms policy, has an express reference that with respect to employee access and acceptable use, that this policy is subject to and complements the county's base personnel policy that includes those responsibilities.
Okay.
So it is subject to that.
Good deal. Well, so we have now a clean copy draft, I guess is what, so what we'll do is we'll distribute that to the departments prior to the meeting, let them have a little time. Brenda, does that sound like a fair way to let everybody have a look at it before we meet generally for?
Yes, sir, I think that's a great idea ahead of time, because to have a meeting and then put it in front of them, not give them a chance to read it, I think that's a great idea, Mayor.
Okay, good deal. We'll do it.
I want to
Great.
confirm.
will-
with Brenda. I think that's a great option, but could you get it out to them more than a day or so? Like, we didn't get the final draft until Friday, and I'll be honest, I only glanced at it because of my workload. So if you could get it out to them at least a week in advance so they have time to look at it. I know they're as busy as I am.
And this one hasn't been reviewed. I got this one with the committee. So to the extent you want them to touch a final version, just bear that in mind.
Same here, the glare from the sun at the beach, I couldn't see the screen.
Oh, don't say that.
Okay, Jim, that was classic. I love it.
We're gonna get you some sunglasses that are polarized.
But, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say that, I think the spirit of this conversation is that we need to make the process going into November quite different from how it went in October, and just everybody staying on top of this day to day and making sure that it's getting to folks, staying on agendas. When we hear that elected officials feel good about this, keep the ball moving. Let's get this on the committee meeting for the December CIA. I'm happy to facilitate with that. Just need people to ping me and keep me in the loop so we can keep it rolling along. And if there's feedback, let's fix it and keep going.
Are you suggesting the communications task force shouldn't have communication problems?
We should be communicating. It's a crazy concept. Thank you.
So is the format that it's in today, Allison, is it okay to distribute to the elected officials?
I have not reviewed this version. I just got it with the task force. So depending on when your meeting is, I wouldn't want to slow it down. I was willing, if it was going to go to CIA, I would have, cleaned it up on the backside. But, usually you want people to touch something once, and I haven't reviewed it, so I wouldn't want to comment.
We might just need to, if you distribute it, you could always say that it's still in process and the legal's still
That's right.
reviewing it.
Yep.
And maybe put a draft watermark, just so that the expectation is not that, it's a final.
That way we don't slow anything down, though. I think that'd be good.
I'm making notes on all of these action items. So subsequent to this meeting, I will draft a memo, make sure that the draft has a draft watermark, get that out to everybody. And I'll make sure and note that it's still under an additional review by our legal department, even though it has been looked at in the past, not a first pass, it's a finalizing review.
Right. Because I did the legal review when I made those additions, and then y'all as a task force had comments at the last meeting of some changes you'd like to make. And that's what I haven't reviewed in conjunction with my notes and how it would read as a whole. And I'll prioritize that so that it keeps you moving. I'm happy to help.
That's great. And that last draft was really marked up. I mean, it was a lot of stuff. So getting it from there to a clean copy, you really have to look at it again. Thank you, everyone. Is it okay for us to, do we all feel like we have a process with this in place, and can we move on to updates by Susan on the website?
Good here.
Okay,
I'm good.
great. All right, Susan, what you got for us?
All right, so we did get CARES Act funding approved for our website and our messaging system that is in conjunction with that. The website will be live by December 18th. We're in the first stages now. I've worked with many of the department heads, and I'm working my way through the office holders to see what changes they need made to what we have now. The company that we are working with is Civic Plus. They exclusively handle government websites. They're really good. They're one of the best. They are the best in the nation. They'll be hosting it for us as well. It'll be backed up at 6 data centers in various parts of the United States. So we will have a 99-point-something% security rating, and it will never be down, which is fantastic. So that's where we are with the website.
And is that going to, how deep is that? I mean, is it going to replace completely everything, all the content that we have
Yes.
currently? And I know like different departments had kind of created their own little places. Is all of that going to be repaired and into this new place, or is some of it still going to be out there in the interweb?
Everything will be new and on the new site.
And did I get you right that you said 1218?
1218.
And you said that CARES Act funding was approved for the website as well as, what did you say, a messaging something?
Yeah, it's an emergency messaging system. We currently do not have one in place. It will work in tandem with what 911 uses to send out push-out alerts. People can sign up for them. And it lives on the website. So folks can sign up for notices there for emergencies. They can sign up for meeting notices, all sorts of stuff. We can push information out that way as well.
And was Civic Plus one of the two companies we had looked at?
We looked at Civic Plus and Granicus. Boiled down to Civic Plus is cheaper in the long run with their hosting fees year over year, and they will redesign our website every 4 years as part of the hosting process. Extremely secure as well.
So will there be an ask of budget at some point for like a maintenance fee on this?
It's a shade under $10,000 a year, which is pretty standard, to be honest.
And then another question, and it's sort of off the website, but I'm super curious about it.
Mhm.
It was, where you were also looking into some sort of software that would help you manage social media, and that's obviously something we're going to need for the rollout. So, you know, we've already we've had delays along the way in terms of getting the social media policy platform policy established. We really need to be working in tandem on something like that. If
We have one. Archive Social is around $200 a month. I've talked with Mitch about it. We're looking to see budget wise if we can handle that. They would aggregate out all of the comments. It's one of the best in the nation. They would also pick up, like if we needed the library, if we needed to archive and be able to access their social media for a public records request of some sort, we could add them on free of charge. We could add 911. We could even add, like, if I'm thinking Dan Wheely, if they needed to have theirs added on, we could do that. Anything that basically the county funds, they would let us add into that, and it would archive all of their social media from the get-go. So even old posts.
Anybody have any questions?
Just from the lawyer's side, if that makes us their custodian of records, that is an issue for this task force or someone in the county. That's a legal issue. If the county assumes the responsibility, and I'm sorry to jump in on your meeting, but that's the first I've heard of it. Just want y'all to.
Yeah, this is the first I've talked about it. So we can add folks. We don't necessarily have to add them, but it is an option if we did see that, you know, we were getting a public records request for, let's say, something at the library. We could add them on that day, and they would pull everything that had ever been posted on their social media. And it is real time, which helps. For instance, if we did have a social media post with comments and somebody made a comment and then they deleted it, we would still have that deleted comment. So it's very robust.
Okay.
So yes, I am looking at those as well.
Sure.
I just have a quick question about reaching out to department heads and others about the website, because I very much want employee benefits to have a part of the page.
Yeah.
I think that was, but we haven't talked about it. So
nope, we haven't. You were out of town. You went on vacay without me.
yeah,
so,
but I've been back. So I just want to make sure that it's not forgotten.
Oh, absolutely. Oh gosh, no. You're in there, because they can do a very secure portal for you as well, which is a great thing. And I wanted to see if you wanted to do an employment application as one of the forms that they will put in for us, because I know we really don't have that.
Well, let's make a time where we can talk about it, because I want to make sure that it doesn't get by us.
Oh gosh, no.
Likewise for legal, I haven't been contacted, so we would want to have our information on there.
Yeah, basically, I think what you all have right now on there is that legal exists. So, you
happy
know,
to visit with you. Just like Michelle, I just wanted to be sure I was on the list. Thank you.
For me, just some of these, you know, the purpose of this task force, getting back to kind of why it was established, what was to, you know, you, Susan, kind of manage the challenge of all these different departments, and just in listening to, you know, the difficulty of communicating out about the website. Is there anything that the task force can do to make that go better?
Probably not. I mean, this just got approved within the last 2 weeks. So, I mean, it's just factoring in. I mean, I've already started meetings with the web company just to get everything set up as far as migrating things and like that. It's one of those, you don't want too many cooks in the kitchen situations.
Great. Okay. And Any other updates from you, Susan?
And that is pretty much it. Except we do have, hey, we have a working sound system in the commission room.
That was very nice last night to actually have microphones that work.
I know, and we are looking at and have bid out a new camera system for that chamber as well.
I
And
noticed that he did not have 6 cell phones set up.
oh my goodness, I know, we did not need that many angles. He said, it's gonna lower our production value. And I said, well, we're not going for a Grammy. So I think we'll be fine.
Speak for yourself, Susan.
Can I ask a question about that courtroom?
Absolutely.
Yes, ma'am.
Are we any further to taking care of Judge Eddie?
Yep, I'm getting Judge Eddie his own speaker up there, and we're pricing out an 85-inch screen that will go on the wall that will face the jury box. That should meet his need.
Okay, fantastic.
Yeah.
And one other thing I was thinking about when I mentioned about Teresa Bowman, how can we communicate to office holders? Because I would have been absolutely mortified if I went by that office. Hey, where's Teresa? And I had maybe it's because I'm over here, but I had no idea she had quadruple bypass. As a matter of fact, I heard triple, and then Susan corrected me and said quadruple. How can we get that out to people? I mean, I would hate to think Rick's story, something happened to him and he's needing our prayers and no one even know that he's in a hospital, or Kathy's story or Joe or any of us. How do we get that? I agree, Commissioner Wheeler. I mean,
We
you
all
guys,
need, yeah.
yeah. I mean, you guys deal with Kathy's story in her office every month.
Yeah, there's that fine line between letting everyone know and becoming a HIPAA violation. So,
Okay.
you know, and
Maybe that's something you and Allison can kind of.
that was a
Or
concern.
maybe you have somebody's permission, like if Teresa says, hey, that's fine.
If there's an authorized person, it can be shared if there's authority. I know that it can seem like a tricky subject, but like you, I found out after the fact. I found out the day of Teresa's surgery. So I was fortunate to be able to drop her a card. But I think that if there is some way to share that kind of important news, I mean, really, it's an operational issue, isn't it? It's not about sharing someone's personal health information. It's about advising that the deputy, I think it's the deputy clerk, forgive me if that's not her actual title, is the one to address, so that people aren't calling and leaving voicemails or something like that. So I think there is a way to handle that. And my understanding is that, Teresa would value that. Teresa Bowman would value having everyone's prayers, everyone's thoughts, and just knowing that we were structuring the stuff so that her departments, which she cares about so much, or her office, is being, thought of, and that people know that she's out because she really has to be. I think she'd be here if she could. So it's definitely doable, Brenda. Thank you for thinking of legal.
I just think I would have been super embarrassed because I was actually going to stop by there for something totally different. And luckily I stopped by another office first. That's why I'm going to head down to Register of Deeds, and they're, oh, what's up? I was like, I got to get Teresa on something. You didn't hear it? I would have hated if this happened last week and I go by there and say, hey, can I speak to Teresa? Because actually that did happen when she had her stent. I went by there on something and they said, oh, you didn't know? It just, I don't know, it's kind of embarrassing. But I mean, and it doesn't have to be specifics, just maybe, had a medical
Health
surgery.
emergency.
Yeah, could you use your thoughts and pray? You don't even have to use the word prayers if you don't want to touch on people who don't get into that. You can just, would like your thoughts or something to where our office could have sent a card. And we still are. But.
Yeah, I just reflecting on these comments. I mean, certainly, Allison's point about it's, sort of functionally helps to communicate those things, so folks know kind of what activities are happening or not happening and why. But also, it really does play a role in the culture of our connectedness and the sense of belonging to, you know, have the ability to send someone a card because you know what's going on. So, you know, I'm going to make a little note here, maybe that we'll follow up on this item, and maybe Susan, you could talk with a bunch of office holders or the mayor or Ms. Wilkinson and others about, you know, how can I create, you know, where are there opportunities for me to communicate about joys and concerns across the organization in a way that is functional, but also, you know, part of what a good, positive, family-like place does. I think that'd be great.
I will say that I oftentimes send out notices to all employees, like when Judge Nidifer passed and Bobby Webb in the accounting office.
That's great.
To let them know this instant I was out of town and didn't find out till I came back and had a text message from a coworker that told me. And I followed up with the Register of Deeds office, and they said they had already talked to the mayor. And so I did not send anything out, but I don't really know that I would have that. I think that would have been more for elected officials only and not all the employees. But if it is something that a passing or something like that, I often will send that out to all the employees. But I think this was one of those opportunities that opens our eyes when it's reported that we should at least work together and follow up. If maybe somebody would, you know, have thought, well, maybe we should just say Teresa Bowman's going to be out of the office for a medical issue for 3 weeks, and here's who you call, or something like that. Those kind of things do make a big difference.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Sounds like something that needs to be coordinated with you as well, Michelle. I appreciate that you do that.
I think if anything, it will build camaraderie.
Uh-huh. Yeah, agree.
To that end, if you need an example, I will share with you and with his authority that Bobby France, who is the compliance officer for environmental cleanups, will be out from Thursday on, so that for until the end of the year. So that's something that, for example, I will announce in HEW, but if that gives a good paradigm from which to work, there is actually an issue like that that's been presented. If you need an example or a trial run or something that would actually be not a waste of time, not a hypothetical.
In that situation, it's a little different than Teresa. I think Teresa is an elected official and a supervisor. Bobby is a one-person department head. I don't know that his job affects other people or not. And I don't know where we want to set the line at, but like, for example, there's going to be other people doing his job while he's away. I don't know if we want to get down to the minute. I'm afraid if we do that, we'll forget somebody and then there'll be hurt feelings. So that's just my thought on it.
I defer to the task force. I will announce that in HEW because they work with Bobby France, but your comments are well noted. I get what you're saying. Y'all are the advisory on that.
All right, great conversation, folks. I'll look forward to hearing, Susan, what you can find out, just talking with various people about ways to do this. And, you know, it's not a whole, it's a kind of in the same spirit of these mayoral updates. And I just caught the one you sent 3 days ago as I was getting ready for the meeting today. Somehow they seem to fall down a few in my list. But it was fantastic. It was actually all things I did not know were going on. So it was all new news to me. Did anyone else get a chance to read the mayoral update?
No, Brian Davenport mentioned last night that he really enjoyed it and said, is that the first one you've done? I said, no, that's the second or third one, Brian. It'll be okay.
I think it's actually the third or fourth, but yeah.
We've been doing those a little bit. So
yeah,
I actually didn't get that, so I've not seen it.
Is it just
went to the commission, Michelle?
I'm sorry, what?
It just goes to the commission.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so you wouldn't have received that one.
Okay.
This is where I think at a future meeting of this body, we need to look at lists, distribution lists.
Yeah,
Where
and we
certain
were
things are
doing
going.
that, Jim, with In fact, within our new communication system that will be in tandem with our website, we can set up different groups to send things like that out. And we can also do that once we migrate everyone over to our new Exchange server. It will be easier to send out email lists to different groups and make it a whole lot easier to communicate throughout the county.
I thought
but I'm-
early on when we talked about mayoral updates, they were going to go to the commission and the elected officials and department heads. I may be wrong though.
Yeah, we were doing the ones that were going to the commission is what we've been focusing on. The ones that we were doing the meetings for the department heads and elected officials.
I like.
Is there a reason that you wouldn't send that one out to a broader?
I can if you want me to.
Internal county folks, and I do think we need to be working towards something that's external, but with this, it looks more internal, but it looks, I can't think of a reason that you wouldn't at least want to get it out to elected officials and department heads.
I can add them to the list as well. We were just making it specifically things that the commission would be concerned with.
Doesn't hurt to just.
You can send it to everybody. It's no biggie. I mean, I just add more names to my list.
Mm-hmm.
My thought is if it's important to the commission, it's probably important to elected officials like Brenda and Teresa and those folks, because they're elected officials as well.
Agree.
Yeah, good point.
Sure, I can send it to everybody. It'll be good.
Okay, I think that's a good idea. I do.
I would just also say that while the messaging system sounds like it will be fantastic for organizing, who gets what, piloting the kinds of messages that work for this group versus that group and kind of feeling out the kind of human side of it is still really important. And we've been kind of piloting this particular one for a little while, but we also had talked about a different one that would go to all of us, the same group that gets this one, but also external stakeholders, the chamber or city commissioners or et cetera, regional economic partnerships, et cetera, that would benefit from hearing the good news of the county. And, there's probably a number of these things we want to consider adding in as we go, and we don't have to wait for the messaging system to try those things. So
it'll be up in December as well with the website.
Great.
I mean, it's not like this is something that's happening in 2 years. This is something
Right.
in December.
Right. Well, good. So let's just keep plodding along with that one. Maybe let's see another one in November, and let's hear some feedback on it. And go ahead and forward the one you sent to everybody that we just discussed, since it's pretty recent and still news.
Sure, we can do it right now.
Great. Other business that folks wish to address today?
I'll jump in there, Madam Chair, if I could just tell you, now that you've got a monthly meeting set, I'm happy to help. I'm available to all of you as task force members, and I would appreciate having the calendar entry, Teresa, and I will keep that on our calendar. But I'm not a member of your task force, so I would see whatever you're looking at CIA. And I'm happy to help if you had a call in advance or something like that. But I just didn't want to not show up at your next meeting and not tell you. I know that now that you're meeting in perpetuity the week of the commission meeting, it may or may not always work on the schedule and with the workload. So there's nothing to that than that. And I just wanted to tell you in person, and for these messages and things, I generally don't see them. Unless you've asked me to see them. So I'm sure Susan would make a statement like this has been through legal or something like that. Otherwise, you could just presume it hadn't been. And I'm happy to get however, give me a call email it, but just if you would just give me a call and let me know if you need me at the meeting. If I've got the gap in the schedule, I'll just jump on. But otherwise, I won't necessarily plan unless there's something you need. So thank you.
Ms. Wilkinson, I appreciate your, number one, I appreciate the demand on your time and don't want you to attend this meeting if it's something that's just adding to your stress level. I have appreciated having you on our calls. And would you mind if I defer to others about, how we use you going forward?
Absolutely, and I'm happy. I enjoy all of you, and I enjoy this concept. I always say I'd rather deal with something. It's not too much stress. It's better to put in an hour on the front end rather than 10 hours on the back end. So I'm very happy to hear from you after a meeting, at a meeting. But I just wanted you to know that, I don't go to the water task force, for example. And so I'm very happy to help, and I'm always available. But I won't generally be here unless you need something. And that's for all of you.
Sounds like you're telling us and not asking us.
No, and I'm happy. I would defer to you.
I'll chime in on that. I mean, as a governmental attorney, she's got to allocate her time too. And, it's almost impossible if you're in meetings all the time to be able reviewing all the documents you need to be reviewing and attending to other calls and whatnot. I certainly, would have to say that I've got some empathy for this, I guess, but I would understand that, you can't be at every county meeting. And we need your input from time to time. We've certainly needed on this policy. If we get into a policy issue like that again, we'll need it. But on these distribution lists and things like that, I would think the legal questions would be kind of minimal.
Thank you, Commissioner.
I appreciate that. Anything else for the good of the order? All right, I will entertain a motion to end the meeting.
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Michelle. Anybody want to second that?
I will second that.
I'll second it.
Michelle and Brenda,
Okay.
thank you. And all in favor say aye. Aye.
Bye.
Meeting's adjourned. I'll have these notes out to you shortly. I appreciate your time so much. Have a great week.
Good to see y'all.